Just kidding.
Hello and welcome to Mad City Podcast. Pat Kemper here. How's everybody doing on this Friday? Friday. It's a beautiful day. I just kind of chilling here with my door open, enjoying the world and talking to some people that I love. I like I said, appreciating the world. I was talking to some people a little earlier about um just how we do things in life that we regret, we feel remorseful, and it's important that we take accountability and and uh and you know see how we've harmed people in the wake of our destructive paths. And like when we're being really self-centered and self-involved, we we hurt ourselves a lot, but we there's a lot of collateral damage that we can cause. And it can be crazy, like how far our reach really goes. And sometimes people are like, well, I'm only hurting myself, who cares, as a drug addict, I've I've considered that, like, well, I'm just, like, who cares if I'm shooting dope and drinking my myself into oblivion, drinking myself to death, like that's my choice. It's my body. It's my choice. But not appreciating how that influences uh, the the relationships that I have with other people. Um, it's like God damn it, all they're trying to do is love me, and I'm treating myself like shit. It's like, imagine, you know, uh, somebody, talking shit about somebody that you care about, and it's like, oh, that piece of shit, I fucking hate him. And it's like, well, you know, when you're doing that to yourself, it's like it's a weird dynamic. So anyway, I guess what I'm getting at though is it's important that we appreciate how we how much we can influence each other, because it can go either way. It can be very positive or very negative. I remember this one time in New Orleans. I was just telling my lady friend about this. Uh, I was walking down the street on Decatur, in the French Quarter, and I'd been up all night in a bar down there, and tripping balls on acid with my good friend Zach. And I saw this middle aged woman walking toward me, and I had this flash in my mind of like how our interaction would go, depending on what I said to her, and how that would like influence our lives from there on out. And as I walked by, like if I were to say something like, "Wow, you're a fat ugly fucking bitch, aren't you?" And she'd be like, "Oh my lord, what did you just say to me, boy?" And then she like goes into work, and they're like, like, "Blanche, what's the problem? What's the matter with you? Why are you all verklempt?" She's, well, this surly young man, this dirty young boy just on the street, he just says the nastiest things to me. And I declare I have never in all my years heard such a disgusting thing come out of a pretty young boy's mouth. Because I was pretty handsome when I was a kid. But anyway, um, like she's talking about these dirty young kids. They come into our city, and sitting on the streets there with the dogs and the packs and the backpacks and the cardboard signs, and saying things like, "Help me, I'm struggling and homeless and hungry and traveling. I don't even care. Get out of my city, you dirty young little tramps." And then later on, like, one of her coworkers is out, having her lunch and walking back to work, and some other kids who are not me are sitting there, and on a blanket, making like little trinkets or something, bracelets. They're like, "Excuse me, miss, could you spare your leftovers by chance?" And she's like, "No, you little street trash, you need to get out of here. You just need to get jobs. Go home. Y'all little street trash come down here and making a mess and treating people bad and blah blah blah, and they're like, "Oh, fuck you, lady. You don't know us. Like, we're just trying to explore the world and just be free. You don't even know what it's like to be a kid anymore." Meh. And then, they're angry, and now she's angry, and I don't know, she goes home and she's flustered and gets in an argument with her husband. These kids, like, they're all pissed off, and like they get mad, so like take whatever little money they have and get fucking drunk and get into a fight with some college kids. It's just like, it's like, why did that happen? What if instead, I'm walking down the sidewalk 7 o'clock in the morning and the sun is shining down, and I pass this lady on the sidewalk on the street there, and as we're passing each other, I kind of, I don't stop, but I sort of pause just a little, and I catch her attention, and I say, "Hey, miss, wow, look around. Like, isn't it just a beautiful fucking day today? I can't believe just how gorgeous the sky looks." And she looks around. She's like, "Yes, yes, it is. But I do say it is a beautiful day. You know what? You have a good rest of your day, young man." And I'd be like, "I will." She'd be like, "All right." And then we just, go about our day. She walks into work and they're like, "Hello, Blanche. How you doing today?" She's like, "I'm just feeling lovely. It is a beautiful day and the sun is shining and right." And then later on, like her coworkers walking down the street from lunch, and she passes some kids sitting there on a blanket making little trinkets, and they're like, "Excuse me, miss, could you spare your leftovers?" She's like, "You know what? I can. And in fact, here's a $5 bill. Now, you kids, you be safe out here because there's a lot of dangerous people running around." "Oh yeah, man, we are. We're just out exploring the world, just trying to enjoy life when we're young." Like, "Yeah, I know what it's like to be young, and it's fine, but you be safe and you take care, okay? Call your mamas and daddies." And like the kids are like, "Yay!" And then they take the $5, make a few more bucks, and like, get some more booze, and like they get drunk, but they're having a good time. And then some college kids come by and they're having a good time and taking pictures, and like they're like, "Hey, you guys want to take a picture with us?" And then like the college kids take pictures with like the dirty street kids, and then the college kids go back home, after like their Mardi Gras or whatever, and they're like, "Yeah, man, we met these really cool, like, traveling kids on the street in New Orleans." And like, fucking maybe they're lifelong friends now. Who knows? Who knows? But how did that happen? Because two people walking down a sidewalk at the same time happen to engage each other in one way or another. Appreciating that singular moment in which you experience another human being in the world. I mean, we're all connected at all times, all the time. But when we interact with each other on that level, we have an impact on each other's lives that sends a ripple, that carries out, much farther than we can really ever possibly imagine. And it's important that we appreciate this, as much as we can, because we have an incredible gift, an opportunity to affect each other in wonderful ways, if we just take the time to be mindful and thoughtful enough to appreciate that. So yeah, I just wanted I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it's important. I mean, there are, there's too many of us out here that don't have someone that will think to ask us how we're doing, to wonder if we're okay. And that sucks. A lot of people just just get kind of, just left to their own devices and left to suffer, and they feel utterly alone. Like, people will say like, "Oh, well, I'm only hurting myself. Like, I'm just me, and I'm the only one in this world that I need to worry about." and nobody cares about me anyway. And that can lead to some really dangerous, devastating thinking, you know? But I mean, the world is a beautiful place. I mean, full of love, with there's just many, many wondrous and exciting adventures awaiting our discovery. But some of us will never learn this fact. You know, and there's an alarming number of people who suffer from grave mental and emotional disorders that lead them deeper into despair and closer to taking drastic measures to ease their pain. You know, not just drugs. You know, I sadly, because of, you know, continuing stigmas surrounding mental health issues, you know, seeking help for depression and you know, feeling isolated and alone, especially now with COVID and everyone working from home and not having the same kind of human connection that we're, you know, accustomed to. Just physical touch, you know, like is it's so precious now. You know, it's because it's still, though, because there's so much stigma surrounding mental health issues, seeking help is not really widely regarded by many people who need it, and therefore, you know, it leaves so many to suffer. You know, like just sit there in their own demise. You know, and a lot of us are probably still in the wake of, you know, the suicide of somebody that we love, or cared about. You know, I hear stories all the time now about, you know, young people, like teenagers. You know, like they're so uh, just separated from what normality is, that, you know, that so disconnected that, you know, like teenagers 13 years old are taking their own lives because, you know, like they just feel like life isn't worth living, you know. And adults, of course, too, you know, suffering through this is incredible, whether you have family or not. It's just, you know, people get locked into this this train track of, you know, hopelessness. And you know, the truth is, nobody really knows, and may never really know what or could bring someone to such a drastic and very permanent decision and action. um yeah, I've, you know, I've read up on this stuff a little bit, you know, here and there. You know, I've had my share of dark moments, of course, and I've had a few suicide attempts myself, that I, you know, I mean, I'm not ashamed to talk about, but it's, I mean, it's not exactly an icebreaker. I'm not going to start a conversation with it typically. Um, but but you know, according to the like the, what is it, the NCIPC, the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control, suicide is like the 11th, I think, leading cause of death in the U.S. It claims more than, like, you know, 30,000, like almost 35,000 lives a year. You know, while depression and mood disorders, you know, like are like the top risk factors for suicide, alcohol and drug abuse rank, you know, like a close second. You know, according to the CDC, the well the no, is it this, is it the same thing? This Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Yeah. I mean, we all know that addiction kills. I mean, the heroin epidemic has just ravaged, you know, the country. I mean, not to mention the world. Um, but you know, it, not always how you think. You know, we often hear people say that, you know, someone lost their battle with addiction and then hear about like an overdose or a car crash. But rarely, when this is spoken, you know, like, do we hear about like suicide? You know, like you'll see an obituary like so and so, you know, a young person uh, suddenly lost their life, you know, or so and so, you know, was, you know, sent to heaven early, or some, you know, however people word it, you know. Um, but you know, it's when it's a suicide, people kind of dance around it, you know. It's treated like a separate issue. But you know, in 2015, you know, I had a couple of friends who committed suicide, and they had addiction issues and they felt alone. And it's the same thing. Just because they didn't shove a needle in their arm to kill themselves, uh, it's however we do it, whether it's slow suicide or a quick suicide, it's still it's we go into it with the same feelings of feeling alone and separate and detached. Um, there's a this article I read once. It was Dr. Carolyn Ross. It was years ago. I think it was like 2014. It was an issue of Psychology Today. She offered, a few explanations as to why so many people struggle with addictions, that turns to suicide. Let me see. Here she says, under the influence of drugs or alcohol, people may lose inhibitions and take risks they ordinarily would not. Additionally, many people abuse drugs or alcohol in an attempt to relieve symptoms of depression, anxiety, or other mental health conditions. The rate of major depression is 2 to 4 times higher among addicts than the general population. She goes on to say abusing drugs, especially depressants such as alcohol or sedatives, can also trigger symptoms of depression, increasing the risk of suicide, she wrote. As consequences of addiction pile up, the legal problems and damaged relationships to financial ruin and job loss, individuals may lose all hope that things can get better. I've felt this. I've been there before getting treatment. Just a few months ago, I was there. If I wasn't able to, I was trying for weeks and weeks to get myself help, and I was at the point where if this didn't work, I was going to check out. I had a friend that lived near me, that was camping near me, near under that bridge. I knew that he was in possession of a gun, and if I wanted to, all I had to do was just find somebody that I trusted to take Daisy, knowing that she would be taken care of, and I was going to check out. I was that alone and selfish and detached, and I figured I was more of a burden than a blessing in the world, you know. But the very nature of addiction is to remove the self from the universal collective it seeks to destroy by way of isolation, alienation, and separation. The ultimate goal of any addiction is to kill its host, you know? And it is in this way that addiction best represents a disease. I know there's been, arguments over it's like, well, is addiction really a disease? Yes, it is. Perhaps the best way to help someone you suspect maybe having suicidal thoughts, whether the result of addiction or other risk factors, isolation by COVID, or maybe they're just shy. Not everybody can be as extroverted as me, obviously, but just maybe just try by just offering an empathetic, listening ear and letting that person know that you care. Just give a call. I mean, these things that we carry in our pockets, I mean, they do still function as phones. I mean, believe it or not, it's not just like a little computer in your pocket. But reach out to people. I mean, fine, send a text message, take a picture of a flower and send it to them. Take a picture of something beautiful, send it to your friend, send it to your family, send it to your neighbor. I mean, send it to anybody, you know, and say, hey, I saw this beautiful thing and it made me think of you. Remind people that the world is a beautiful place. We should all enjoy it, take part in it, enjoy it together. Um, wow. So yeah, I mean, like it's really simple. I mean, it's easy. I mean, and honestly, if you want, if you want to use your little device, your that you might be using right now to listen to me babble on about this, if you want tips on how to talk with someone who may be suicidal, you can go to www.helpguide.org, um, or for more information on how to help yourself or somebody you suspect of being suicidal. If you're having a hard time, go to the International Association for Suicide Prevention website. You can do that by going to www.iasp.info or call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or your local suicide prevention hotline. In Madison, the number is 608-280-2600. You know, like, we don't have to feel alone. We don't have to feel lost. We don't have to feel disconnected, because we are we. And there are many of us. And we are found. We are here. We're together. As much as we can be, we can love each other, and we can get through this weird ridiculous, very interesting time that we are all living in right now. But we got to help each other. You know, we got to be each other's eyes and ears, and we can get through this. So thanks for listening. I love you guys, and I will talk to you again very, very soon. All right, bye for now. Come